So first we'll talk about what is a linear inequality. All right, so this is something that replaces the equal sign, right, with an inequality. Right, so remember greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. It's just going to replace that equal sign with one of those. All right, and then a solution to this is any ordered pair that makes the inequality true. Any ordered pair that makes the inequality true. So we'll talk about what does that look like. So if I have the inequality y equals x minus 3, and I want to know, is the ordered pair 1, 2 a solution? So I just want to plug that into the inequality and simplify. So what's the y value in that point? 2. So I'm going to say, is 2 greater than, right? That's kind of my question. Is 2 greater than 1 minus 3? So we simplify that and say, what is 1 minus 3? What? Negative 2. So is 2 greater than negative 2? Yes, right? Works out. So I can say, yes, that is a solution. Okay? So I do the same thing with negative 3, negative 7. Right, so plug that in and say negative 7, is that greater than negative 3 minus 3? So what is negative 3 minus 3? Okay. Who is doing that? What is negative 3 minus 3?
I have a question.
Yes?
Oh, never mind.
Negative 3 minus 3 is what? Negative 6. Is negative 7 greater than negative 6? No. Right, so that one's not a solution. Okay? So that kind of stuff will come into play in a second. So when I go to graph these, right, we're going to graph it just like I would on any other line, right? And then so you guys remember when we graphed lines before, right, we got at least 2 points and we made the line, right? What we're going to do now is before I get before I decide to draw the line, I need to look at a couple things. So I'm going to make my points, and then I need to look for a dashed line or solid line, right? So dashed lines are going to happen anytime I have the inequalities less than or greater than, right? So remember when you graph these in like chapters 1 or 2, less than and greater than were open circles, right? So now less than or greater than are dashed lines when we graph these. Solid lines are the other two, right? Less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, right? There's a line underneath this one. It's kind of hard to see. Okay. So that'll tell us solid line or dashed line, right? And we'll look at that in a second. And then I'm going to have to do a test point, right? And see where on the graph I'm going to have to shade, right? So I do the shading is my inequality, kind of like how I drew the arrow on a number line to show that's where all the solutions were, where I shade. Yep, test point. So now let's look at this kind of in action, right? So if I were to graph that first one, y is less than or greater than x minus 2, right? If I want to think about, I'm kind of pretending, I just misspelled that. Ignore that n, I'm not erasing it. I'm kind of pretending that I'm graphing y equals x minus 2, right? That's kind of what I want to look at graphing. So where do I start when I go to graph that? Negative 2, right? And then what's my slope? 1 over 1, right? So I'm going to go up 1 over 1. And so I've got a few points there. Right? So now I look and say, am I going to have a solid line or a dashed line between those points? dashed, right? Because I'm looking at this right here. That tells me a dashed line. So I'm just going to kind of make myself a little bit of a dashed line there. So now here's where the test point comes in. I'm going to tell you that so I want you to think about this. What numbers are really easy to plug into equations and evaluate? So maybe positive. What specific numbers? What's the easiest number you think you can plug in for x and y?
1 or 2. 0.
0, right? Because 0 times anything is what? 0. 0 plus anything is?
Whatever that number is.
Whatever that second number was, right? So if I can use 0, 0 as a test point, that's what I'm going to want to use, right? So how do I know if I can use it? Your test point cannot be on the line, right? So maybe make yourself a point here, right? Can't be on the line. Okay? So if I look here, is 0, 0 on my line? No. So I'm going to plug in 0, 0, right? So my test point is 0, 0. So say is 0 greater than 0 minus 2? So what is 0 minus 2? Negative 2. So is 0 greater than negative 2? Yes. So I'm going to shade where 0, 0 was. So I'm going to shade above the line. And there's my final graph.
Kill whoever player short.
Okay. So if I look at the next one, y is less than or equal to 1/2 x plus 1. Where should I start when I graph this one? Let's just start at plus 1. What's my slope? 1/2. Okay, so I kind of end up with those points. Do I have a solid line or a dashed line? Solid line because I have less than or equal to.
I'm ready.
Okay, good. I thought you were sleeping.
It could be.
No. All right, so pretend like I made my line through my dots because it kind of was not good. So here's one. Could you use 0, 0 as the test point?
No. Yeah.
Yeah, right? 0, 0 isn't on the line. I'm going to use a different one for this one just because I want to show you guys something. So let's say I pick my test point to be up here at 0, 3. Right? So make my test point 0, 3. So I still plug those in and say 3, is that less than or equal to 1/2 times 0 plus 1? So what is 1/2 times 0? 0. So I don't know, is 3 less than or equal to 1? Is that true? No, right? Not true. So should I shade where that test point is? No, I need to shade where the test point isn't, which is down here. So anytime you plug in that test point and say it gives you a false inequality, you're going to shade on whatever side that test point isn't on. Okay? So I'm going to look at writing the inequality that's shown on this graph. So I need to know a couple of things, right? I need to know what my slope is and what's my y-intercept. So y-intercept is pretty easy to see, right? Deacon Dodge, what's my y-intercept? 3. Right? B equals 3. Anybody tell me what my slope is here? So Kaylin says 3 over 4. Caden says negative 3 over 4. Who's right? Negative 3 over 4, right? Because I went down 3. So make sure you keep that in mind. So I know I'm going to have y, right, something, but now I need to figure out what's my inequality. So first look at it and say, what type of line do I have? Solid. So I know because it's a solid line, right, I need less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. So where do you notice it's shaded? Above or below that line? Above. So if it's above the line, chances are, what do you think the inequality is going to be? Greater than, right? Does that make sense, right? If I'm above something, I'm greater than it, right? So I can say y is greater than or equal to. And then I just fill in like I did for slope-intercept form and say, well, my slope is negative 3/4 x plus my y-intercept plus 3. And so there's my inequality for that graph.